Right, welcome everybody. As you know, it's an informal meeting today, so we're not making any decisions or taking any votes, so we'll make a start. Membership of the committee, it looks as though everybody's here that's supposed to be here.
Yeah, that's right, Chair.
Right, item 2, declarations of interest and lobbying. Start off with Councillor Patrick.
None, Chair.
No. Donna.
None, Chair.
Mohan.
None, Chair.
Carol.
None, Chair.
Andrew.
None, Chair.
Yeah, none as well. Item 3, admission of the public. We're being webcast and I gather we're on YouTube as well. Right, next. Deborah, have you got anything to say?
Sorry, Chair, just putting myself off mute. No, I think because we're not making any decisions and we're just a statutory consultee, I don't need to say anything. Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Steve, could I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks very much. I mean, you've said, obviously it's been said this is an informal meeting, I understand that. Could someone outline what the process is going to be for decision making, for feeding back any concerns and comments into this? Because obviously we're dealing with listed structures today, but the whole issue of Transpennine route upgrade. So you know, if this isn't the decision making meeting on the planning applications, where does it go, please?
Right, Julia or Louise, do you want to come in?
Yep. Thank you, Chair. So yeah, like I say, I just want to I suppose address that point, which we're going to come in with next, to be honest. But yes, so today this is an informal meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee. So the purpose of this afternoon is to informally discuss those 9 listed building consents that have been included in a Transport and Works Act order, which have been submitted by Network Rail to the Secretary of State for Transport. So members, this is, like I said, it's about sort of providing any views and comments that you have on those schemes. It's not about making any formal decisions today. So what will happen, should members provide any further sort of comments or provide any further views this afternoon, they will be added to the comments, those wider responses, which will then be submitted by the local planning authority as a statutory consultee to the Secretary of State. So like I say, all those comments will be brought together and submitted to the Secretary of State. So that's just to clarify in terms of the purpose of today's meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Julia. Right, Louise, are you doing your presentation run through first? Okay,
thank you.
It's all yours.
Thank you, Chair. So Louise Bearcroft, Senior Planning Officer in the Majors and Minerals team. So the purpose of today's committee meeting is for officers to brief members on 9 listed building consent applications which have been submitted by Network Rail. The works for which listed building consent are sought are required as part of a scheme to upgrade the railway between Huddersfield and West Town. On the 31st of March of this year, Network Rail submitted a draft Transport and Works Act order to the Secretary of State. The scheme, which runs from Huddersfield to West Town, is part of a wider programme of work to improve the Transpennine Railway between Manchester, Huddersfield, Leeds and York. The proposal is to increase service capacity and improve journey time through electrification and the provision of 4-tracking across the route. The estimated cost of delivering the project is just over £1.4 billion, and if the order is granted, would represent a significant investment in the district. In conjunction with this, Network Rail have submitted 9 listed building consent applications which are before members today. These applications have an automatic call into the Secretary of State, and they will be considered at the same time as the Transport and Works Act order. So in the interest of clarity, as Julia said, it is the Secretary of State and not the local planning authority who is a determining body. The local planning authority do, however, have opportunity to comment and provide any comments to the Secretary of State within a period of 42 days, extended to 45 days due to the bank holidays. So the purpose of today's meeting is to brief members on the merits of each listed building consent application and to seek members' views on the heritage implications of each to formally submit to the Secretary of State. There are 9 application sites which follow the route from Huddersfield to West Town. The first 2 are Huddersfield Station, which is Grade 1 listed, and Huddersfield Viaduct, a Grade 2 listed structure sited between John William Street and Alder Street. The next 2 locations are bridges in the Bradley area, Wheatley's Collary Bridge, which is located off Ashley Industrial Estate, and Combe Bridge Road. The next locations are at Mirfield Viaduct adjacent to Newgate, and Wheatley's Viaduct adjacent to Stenard Lane. And the last 3 are in the West Town Dewsbury area. They include Occupation Bridge adjacent to Thornhill Road, Toad Holes adjacent to Watergate Road, and Ming Hill Bridge off Huddersfield Road. The proposals within each application form a key part of the Transpennine route upgrade, and they have been developed in consultation with Historic England and Kirklees Council conservation officers over some years. The design development process included appraisal of alternative options to identify an approach which delivers Network Rail's operational requirements, whilst also meeting national and local policy requirements to minimise the impact on the heritage assets. So the planning, balance and consideration of the applications just take into account the benefits perceived from the railway upgrade scheme weighed against the identified harm to the assets. For each application, there is a safeguard proposed through Network Rail's suggested condition to provide further technical detail within a Conservation Implementation Management Plan, or SIMP. This is proposed as a means to specify the various materials, the techniques and the task implementation methods necessary to detail the intervention works and demonstrate that the tasks will retain the authenticity, special interest and character of the heritage assets. And this is a safeguard considered essential by officers and one which is welcomed. So before the presentations for each application are made, representatives for Network Rail are in attendance today to present their fly-through of the railway upgrade. I'll hand you back to Chair. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Louise. Right, we'll call in Network Rail. I think, is it Alex?
It is, thank you, Chair.
Right.
So I'm Alex Davis, Head of Consents and Environment for Network Rail, and I've got my colleagues Tony Rivero, Town Planning Manager on, and David Vernon, our Senior Sponsor for the scheme. Just hopefully this all works, so we're successful last time. So I'm just going to show you the fly-through. This fly-through was produced as part of our public consultation. I will just pause at the primary listed buildings. So I'll just start the fly-through now. So the scheme starts at Springwood Junction, just outside Huddersfield Station. As we go over the tunnels, we're doing works in those tunnels. And we come to Huddersfield Station, one of our key work areas. I'll just pause it here for 1 second. So the works we're doing here is demolition of the roofs and replacements. Roof A we're working on and extending and putting a new footbridge in at this location. So I'll just carry on now through the fly through as we move across John William Street, which the bridge will be replaced here to accommodate the remodelled station. And then we go to 4 lines through the viaduct, which is a listed structure, the blue and the red. And we replace span 29, going through the works now. Hill House siding is one of our key compounds. This is all electrified railway as we come to the new, to the extended Deaton station. So the blue lines are the slow lines and the red lines are the new fast lines. So the blue lines are for the stopping trains, red lines are for the fast services. And we come to Deaton Station over Whittaker Street Bridge. We go through the A62 bridge, which will be built offline. Just pause it here at Wheatley's. So this bridge is rebuilt at Wheatley's. There's Wheatley's bridge. We come through Bradley Junction. And then we come to Colne Bridge Road, which again is rebuilt next to Bradley Access Point. Over the river, then you go Heaton Lodge, a new line running to the right, and the solar line, the existing, to the left, and Heaton Lodge curve is built to your right there. We have the new footbridge put in for the current footpath, which runs through under the railway up to the Greenway. Now we zoom on down to Mirfield. I'll just pause at Mirfield Viaduct as we get there very briefly. So Mirfield Viaduct, we're putting overhead lines on across the viaduct. That's the primary work at this location. Go through Mirfield Station. Again, new lifts at Mirfield Station, new footbridge. So we come to Wheatley's. Again, just OLE being attached to that bridge there, through Sands Lane, coming up to Ravensthorpe. Where there's a new station at Ravensthorpe to your left. Calder Road. Bridge is remodelled, and a flyover is put in to go over the canal and the River Calder, with a new feeder station to your right on the former landfill site. And you've got the Wakefield line to the right there. And then we come to the final three listed building applications, which is Occupation Road, Toads Hole and Ming Hill. And these are infills of those assets. You can't really see them from this fly through, but I'll just stop to give you a general indication as to where they are as we move round Thornhill Road Bridge. So as we come to the end of the scheme and tie back in, roughly that's occupation. We're infilling there, and Ming Hill and Total are roughly there and there where my cursor is. So I'll just point those out again to you, roughly there and there. And that's the end of the fly through as we come to the end of the scheme at Mr. Sparkle's car wash. Thank you. I'll just turn off my share there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Right. Louise, do you want to start going through each application?
Yes, thanks, Chair. So the first one is Huddersfield Railway Station. So at the Grade 1 listed Huddersfield Station, the proposal is to provide a new track and platform layout and new signalling. And this will allow for deconfliction of passing and stopping services and to allow for the commencement of four-way tracking at this location. So this slide shows a bird's eye view of the station and its roof as existing and proposed. So the existing roof structure comprises two spans. The largest is known as Roof A, and this is between the principal station building and platform 4. The smaller is Roof B, which spans above platforms 4 and 8 and supports a cantilever canopy known as Roof C over platform 8. The proposed works include replacement of roofs B and C with a new roof canopy to a modern design, which would cover the new island platforms. The works also include the removal of 2 bays from the southern end of Roof A to allow for new track alignment, and the addition of 3 new bays at the northern end to provide additional coverage for the extended platforms. Roof A would be strengthened and the lantern reinstated, and the Penistone Line platform canopy will be extended northwards. This slide shows the existing and proposed roof arrangements. So the proposals would result in the complete loss of roofs B and C, and they will be replaced with a new modern roof with blade-like canopies, stepping down and linked with glazing to allow them to span over the tracks whilst providing clear views and natural light onto the platforms. The proposal also seeks to rearrange the existing platform layout to extend their length, widen platform 1 and provide a new island platform as shown in this slide. It is also proposed to construct a new footbridge to accommodate the forecasted increase in passengers and to provide emergency access and egress, as well as extending the existing passenger subway to provide access to the new platforms. This includes realignment of the subway stairs on the island platform and infilling of part of the redundant parcel subway to support the new track alignment. Other works include the dismantling, storage and reconstruction of the timber bordered tea rooms with their position altered for the new narrowed island platform, and also then the installation of overhead line equipment throughout the station, aside from on the Penistone line platform. So here are some plans which show the new platform layout. And this slide shows the proposed appearance of the new footbridge, which will provide access for passengers across the platforms. It features a steel frame and full height glass panels on both sides in a sawtooth design to avoid glare, and would be a contemporary addition to the station complex. The proposals represent significant change to the surviving historic fabric of this nationally important heritage asset. However, it is considered the most significant components of the station will not be adversely impacted upon, and the proposal are intended to enhance its purpose as a transport hub. The proposal will help secure its optimum viable use, and officers consider that a cumulative impact of all the interventions would amount to less than substantial harm to its significance. This harm must therefore be outweighed by substantial public benefits to justify the proposed interventions. The public benefits of the wider railway upgrade include the delivery of electrification and carbon reduction, a reduction in journey times, an increase in capacity through more train services and longer trains, and improved journey quality. The proposals will also deliver some heritage benefits within the station complex. These include the proposed strengthening of Roof A, the reinstatement of the lantern, and reinstating bays removed from the original roof length. They also include the retention and fireproofing of the tea rooms to enhance the longevity of this structure and its appreciation of its significance. The scheme would also enable the rationalisation and removal of modern structures, such as a signal box, cable gantry and relay rooms, which detract from the design quality of the station complex. And their removal would also partially open up views across the station platforms, better revealing the historic connections with the Grade 2 listed warehouses and former goods yard. Benefits to the operation of the station would also be achieved, including enhanced health and safety and increased passenger comfort. The track alignment and signalling would ensure flexibility of train movement, create an improved service, and realise operational requirements for signal sighting and passenger safety, including platform curvature, which improves on the existing standard platform widths. The proposal would deliver an improved station environment with increased passenger comfort, including platform coverage, enhanced lighting, step-free access across all platforms to achieve the highest standards of safety and accessibility. Officers therefore consider the substantial public benefits provide the necessary justification to enable support of the proposed works. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. First speaker is Councillor Sokol.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Chair. Chair, very briefly, it's really amazing to read the history of this viaduct, yeah, which has been built in 1845 and 47. It's a great. I'm sure the proposed scheme will improve the area and the viaduct and create more tracks on this one for the benefit of the public. Yeah. The question I want to ask Chair is, because the Huddersfield railway viaduct spaces have been many used for takeaway, restaurant, nightclub in the town centre, and further on towards Bradford Road and Alder Street. Those viaduct spaces are used by the motor car repair garages and others. Can the railway give me surety. This scheme, the part of the improvement will be of this space used by the takeaway restaurant, nightclub, and the car garage, who, especially in the town center, it generate night economy for the council. I have seen some spaces which have been used by the car garages. They are in disrepair. Railway get the rent out, but they're not spending much money on those to improve the. There are some spaces that are in disrepair. They need some funding to improve there. Can the railway assure me they will look into that, and that will be part of the scheme? Thank you.
Thanks, Marlon. I've got Andrew. I'll let Andrew make his comments and then see if anything's same as what Mohan said. So, Andrew.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to welcome this proposal because it what we will end up with, I think, is an enhanced interior of the station, which will complement a lot better the absolutely fantastic and fabulous exterior of the station, which is something that all of us, I'm sure, are extremely proud of. And what pleases me particularly is that there will be a mixture of retaining the original buildings like the tea rooms and so on, as well as modern style roofs. And I think this combination of well, not ancient but older and modern is quite is a really good idea, and I think will enhance the environment of the station enormously. I would look forward to seeing it being completed, frankly. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. I'll just bring Network Rail in to answer Mohan's question.
Dave, do you want to take the one on the viaducts and the arches and the role Network Rail playing those?
Yeah, no problem. Afternoon, everyone. So yeah, the arches underneath the viaduct and indeed viaducts across the rail network are in the ownership of a firm called Archco, which is sort of a subsidiary for Network Rail property who manage those arches. It's not directly done by the project team, nor is responsibility of the Transport and Works Act team being discussed today. They shouldn't be in disrepair. There is a mechanism there for managing as is a normal building, let's say. So they are regularly inspected. Tenants should maintain them to a reasonable state of repair. I've noted your comments. I will feed that back to the Archco team. Obviously, we are on site. We've done multiple investigations in the arches themselves, with the track work and electrification work going to be going above them. But as I say, I will feed that back internally to the team here. It's not something when it comes to the tenants and use of them that the TWA, that this project will address. But obviously, I will take that internally and ensure that your comments are obviously forwarded and hopefully addressed.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think sometimes listings can interfere with or hold back progress, and I can see the conflicts in all these proposals in this report. Yeah, I think progress is the priority, however, and if measures can be included that retain or enhance the heritage features, then all the better. And I tend to agree with what Councillor Pinnock says on this particular application. However, there might be things that we're not aware of that are not in this report that others have concerns about, and hopefully they'll be picked up when they make their own representation to the Secretary of State. That's the only caution I would have, because there are, if we were in a normal planning application, people would come and speak and might raise issues that we'd never thought of, that weren't in front of us, and that we would pick up on and say, well, what about that? How are you going to deal with that particular aspect? But we don't have that here. So what we're looking at, if we just concentrate on this first item, it looks fine, looks great, it looks exciting. It's what we need. We need to move forward. We need progress. It's fantastic. Are there matters that we don't know about? Well, we don't know about them, so we can only go on what's in front of us. That's all I need to say at the moment.
Right. Louise?
Thanks, Chair. I just want to say that for every application, we will have a condition suggested by Network Rail, the Conservation and Implementation Management Plan. And it's through that process, which will have to be like a discharge or condition process, that we will get absolutely all the detail in that we need to make those assessments. So Network Rail provided so much detail, and we've made an assessment upon this, and our comments will go through to the Secretary of State. But we do endorse the conditions and welcome them, and it will be through that Conservation and Implementation Management Plan, and especially for Huddersfield Station, it will need to be exceptionally detailed to make sure that all the heritage issues are considered through a discharge condition process. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Martin?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Like other colleagues, I welcome the improvement of the station. Just a couple of questions, partly as well referring to what Louise has said. When I was lead member some years ago, Councillor McBride asked me to go to Huddersfield, and we were walked through a goods tunnel, which Peter was quite emphatic could be brought into use to give access from the vacant land in St George's warehouse at the rear through to St George's Square at the front, where I think in the presentation has talked about retaining the existing underpass or tunnel. Has any work been done on Peter's idea about opening up the goods tunnel? And then just picking up on Louise's, I think it was Louise's point about Conservation Implementation Management Plan, and this will be something that runs through all of the applications, Steve, that the feedback, the process from that, as that all that work on the conditions has got to be submitted and approved by the local planning authority, which will be the staff. For something as significant as this, shouldn't the planning committee see these back and sign off on them? Thanks.
Louise, do you want to come back in on that, or Julia?
Thank you, Chair. If I just take the bit about the tunnel, it is showed Network Rail proposing to infill the redundant parcel tunnel to provide the structural integrity for the new track alignment. So that's what's proposed as part of this application. Julia, I don't know if you want to come back on the other question or.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Louise. So yeah, in terms of sort of any future discharge of conditions, I think it's one of those where, yeah, that would be in the public domain. So what I would suggest is if members did want to see the discharge of condition referred back to strategic committee, then yeah, that is something that is within our scope to do. So like I said, we could note that on the files for the future should it move forward. Is that all right, Chair?
Yeah, it looks as though you've got a thumbs up with that piece. Yeah. Right. Any more questions or comments on this particular application? Or can we move on to what's next? No. Right. Move on to the next application, page 25. And this is the John William Street and Adler Street section.
Thank you, Chair. So the next slide is the Huddersfield Viaduct. This is a grade 2 listed. It's a 47-span viaduct, largely of masonry construction, which carries a Transpennine route. It currently carries 2 tracks for the majority of its length, increasing to 5 on the approach to Huddersfield Station. The spans primarily comprise arches which accommodate 3 rows beneath the structure and some businesses. The proposed works include installation of overhead line equipment along the length of the viaduct, with portals attached to the exterior of the structure on the east side and the southern half of the western side, and they will be supported on the track bed on the northern half of the western side. It is also proposed to install a signal gantry over spans 2 and 3 for train movement into and out of Huddersfield Station, and to strengthen the spandrel walls at localised points along the viaduct where required. So the application seeks consent to increase the number of tracks along the deck of the viaduct. These will increase from 2 to 5 tracks up to span 17, and then reduce to 4 tracks from span 17 to the northern end of the structure. It is noted that Huddersfield Viaduct was originally designed to accommodate a greater number of tracks. At John William Street Bridge, it is proposed to replace the deck with a new steel span, which would also be widened on the southeastern side, with parapets incorporating reused elements of the existing cast iron edge girders, or to be designed in a style to match the existing structure. At Fitzwilliam Street, it is proposed to reconstruct the northwestern corner of the abutment of the Underbridge to be clad in masonry to match its external appearance. And then at Northgate Bradford Road, it's proposed to replace the metallic decks of the Underbridge with new concrete beams supported on new widened abutments, with both the new parapets and abutments designed in a style to respond to the existing structure. The cumulative impacts will present some adverse effects resulting from loss of historic components, permanent change to the fabric of the structure, and the integration of new engineering structures. The proposals represent significant change to the surviving fabric. However, it's considered its overall significance would not be adversely impacted to any significant extent. Officers considered the impacts would amount to less than substantial harm to its significance. Therefore, as before, it's necessary to evaluate whether the proposal can demonstrate substantial public benefits to outweigh this harm. The public benefits of the route upgrade have been discussed in the previous application. They include the delivery of electrification, carbon reduction, reduction in journey times, and increase in capacity and improved journey quality. In addition, for Huddersfield Viaduct, the proposals will sustain its viable use, ensuring that the longevity of the structure will remain. Officers considered these public benefits provide the necessary justification to enable support for the proposed works. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Members, any questions or comments? No? Right.
I can't see.
You all right if we move on to the next item?
Thank you, Chair. So the next item.
I don't know, they've just come through now. Right, I've got 2 that's come through at the same time. Councillor Pinnock.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to say that anybody who travels into Huddersfield cannot fail to notice this huge viaduct. It is a very significant element in the landscape, and what I've heard so far will clearly enhance what it does, and I think will ensure that no damage is done to the appearance of the viaduct, so that it's able to fulfil its kind of doubled function from what we have at the moment. So that's all good. That's all good stuff, in my opinion, and I will look forward to the management plan to see how it's actually going to be done. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Councillor Bellamy.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, to mainly agree with what Councillor Pinnock said. My only concern would be how long this is going to take and the disruption that it's probably going to cause around the roads there, because they're extremely busy roads, and I'd be quite interested to see on how they're going to manage manage that side of it. So thank you, Chair.
Yeah, true.
Thanks, Councillor Patrick.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I haven't really got a problem with this at all. I did hear there that they were talking about reusing some of the ironwork on the John William Street Bridge, and I just thought, well, why reuse it? Why not just simply replace it with in the same design? And the other thing is, when you look at these structures, albeit that they are listed, they do need some work doing to them. And I'm just wondering if, as a result of these changes, there will be some enhancement work done to them so that they are repaired where they need repairing. Thank you.
Thanks, Nigel. Anybody from Network Rail want to come in on those questions?
So it's Alex here. On the highways, we'll be working closely with Kirklees around, and we already are, the council round highways, diversions, etc. So we'll continue that. In terms of works to the viaduct, there'll be some minor repairs works as part of the package, but again, we'll be developing those through the conservation implementation management plan. So there'll be ongoing dialogue and work with Kirklees as we progress and a decision on the orders made.
Right, thanks, Alex. Any more questions? No. Louise?
Thank you, Chair. So the next one is Wheatley's Collary Bridge. So this site comprises a Grade 2 listed railway bridge, known as Wheatley's Collary Bridge, which is accessed from Ashley Industrial Estate off the A62 Leeds Road. It's a two-span masonry arch pedestrian and cycle bridge, which carries the National Cycle Route 66 over the railway. The application seeks listed building consent to demolish the bridge and to erect a replacement. The TRU programme requires the railway lines to be realigned and increased from 2 to 4 lines at this location. This new track alignment would clash with the northeastern abutment and intermediate pier, while the bridge's existing arches have inadequate headroom to accommodate the overhead line equipment. It is therefore proposed to demolish the bridge and replace it with a new structure to meet the required horizontal and vertical clearances. Alternative options have been explored during the design development process, including adjusting the horizontal rail alignment to fit the existing tracks and the new fast lines through the arches of the bridge, as well as adjusting the vertical rail alignment through track lowering to provide adequate clearance for the overhead line equipment and bridge jacking to increase height of the arches. But these options have been deemed by Network Rail to be unable to meet their necessary safety, operational and buildability requirements, and also would potentially result in engineering challenges elsewhere along the route. So the new bridge would be built adjacent to the listed structure. It would have a weathered steel finish with cladding on the approach walls and abutments in stonework. It would have a deck to the same dimensions suitable for cycling and pedestrian use, but it wouldn't provide views along the line as it does now. The detailed design would be secured through the Conservation and Implement Management Plan. The works here would result in a major adverse heritage impact resulting from the complete loss of the bridge's significance as a designated heritage asset. Therefore, in accordance with the requirements of the NPPF, paragraphs 195 and Local Plan Policy LP 35, it is necessary to evaluate whether the proposals demonstrate the necessary substantial public benefits to outweigh this harm. The exploration of alternatives concludes that a demolition replacement is necessary to deliver the operational requirements and objectives of the Transpennine route upgrade. The route upgrade is considered to be vital in supporting the north of England's long-term, low-carbon economic growth, better connecting people to jobs, services, education and leisure. The increased movement of people and goods along this key part of the network would support a more economic and socially viable transport solution. The environmental and sustainability benefits would arise primarily from the electrification of the line, and the increased speed and capacity would partially be achieved through the newly aligned tracks, and this is along the section of line currently spanned by Wheatley's Overbridge, with the 4-line track would allow for express trains to bypass slower trains and freight services. Although the existing bridge was designed to span 4 tracks, the arches cannot accommodate the overhead line equipment or the new alignment. So while the demolition of Wheatley's overbridge is regrettable, officers consider its loss may be considered to be outweighed by the substantial public benefits that would be facilitated by its removal. The major adverse impact may be partially tempered by managing the delivery of a high level of design quality for its replacement, and this would come through the Conservation Implementation Management Plan and discharge conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Councillor Pinnock.
Thank you, Chair. Right, now this is somewhere where I start disagreeing. I perfectly well understand what the purpose of this whole thing is about. It's about improving the speed and frequency of trains on this line. I understand that perfectly, but we then have a collision, not a physical collision, but a metaphorical one between that and listed structures. And in this case, I think it's really quite unfortunate that we have a stone bridge here, which, as I understand what Louise Bearcroft has just said, will be replaced by a steel and stone structure. I'm not sure about that. I'll come back to that in a minute. But a technical point, one of the issues, it appears, is that there isn't enough clearance for the overhead line equipment. Now, can I ask whether overhead line equipment is actually needed under the bridge? Because my understanding of the technology is that some of the trains that operate normally under wires can, for quite long distances, actually go without having contact with wires. That might be able to sort that issue. But I was also mentioned about the alignment. I don't know whether the alignment has got to alter or what. I mean, I can see the point that you have a bridge here with two arches, which is to be replaced by a bridge with only one arch. I can see that not having a thing in the middle is a big advantage, but I just wonder whether all the options retaining the bridge have been explored, and to what extent does the enhancement of the route outweigh all of that. Sorry, I've gone on rather longer than I intended to, but I'm just making the point. I think that we've got to be careful with listed structures, as wherever they are, whether they're bridges or buildings, and don't just discard them without the most possibly minute examination of how whether this is the right thing to do. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Andrew. Somebody from Network Rail, do you want to answer that?
Yeah. Tony, if you want to come in as well, if you. So Alex here, Chair. Good questions. We have done a whole series. We don't just demolish listed structures. We do take under a lot of assessment, worked closely with HG and the Kirklees Council have previously said. The key issues we have here is obviously we've got to get 4 lines through, and obviously the OLE. Your point on OLE infrastructure, we wouldn't be able to do discontinuous, but we can, because the trains would have to sort of pan down at the station. You'd have to stop, bring the pan off the overheads. So you wouldn't be able to do that. Also, in terms of, so we look at if we can jack the bridge, lower the track, but here we've got a gauge issue where we need to fit 4 lines through. And in terms of what we replace the bridge, we want to put the next layer of modern materials. So railways have always been built with the most modern materials, and this is the next phase of railways. So we're not trying to mimic what's there. We're trying to show here's the next phase of railway development, railway technology. So that's how the bridge is responding to the environment.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just answer, Alex.
Sorry, Councillor, if we just add to what Alex said, I mean, the key point here is actually the horizontal line, as Louise mentioned. And to achieve the line speeds that we require, we do have to move the tracks a significant distance, and they clash with the northern pier of the bridge. And it's like a jigsaw. If you mess with one little bit, it acts with something further down the line. So that we'll see the same down at Cornbridge Road Bridge further down the line. So as Alex said, we did consider all the options that we can do, but in order to meet the speeds, which will then meet the objectives that have been set for us by the DFT for the upgrade, unfortunately, the bridge will have to be sacrificed.
Right, thank you. Martin?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I think one theme running through this is there's a lack of detail and a lot of information. A lot of the impacts that we feel, there's the benefits on the rail side and the adverse impacts on the transport infrastructure. Now, on a normal planning application, you'd have transport officers and been addressing that. Taking this into account, this is a transport route, and a small point for officers to note, it's not a pedestrian and cycleway, it's a greenway. There's a lot of equestrians also use that. And as you know, Steve, in Hetmondwike, people feel very strongly about their greenways. So we've got to take into account that it's not just a matter of disturbing a pedestrian or a cyclist. It's a transport corridor. Transport, active travel being a key importance. Carbon reduction has been mentioned several times. Both Kirklees and West Yorkshire have signed up to active travel targets. So I want to know what their plan is for this. We're told that the existing Wheatley Bridge is going to be demolished. Will they be treating the Greenway with the same significance as they will some of the road structures, and building the new bridge while the old one's still in play and people can use it, so that we're not putting vulnerable road users onto the A62 round Cooper Bridge for what could be 5 years according to this. We don't know the build time because that's not in. So, can they build it alongside, seeing as we're dropping this altogether? Because they've mentioned the carbon reduction. We want to see that. And again, let's have some input from Kirklees Highways people about what this means for our local infrastructure, and not just for, a 6-minute journey time between Manchester and York, I think is one of the metrics I've seen. Great for the railways, but for the majority of people in Kirklees, who use roads and other things, we need to see the impact on them. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Martin. I'll bring Councillor Patrick in, and then we'll get some answers to those questions.
Yeah, mine are really questions for the Network Rail representatives. Just following on from what's been said, I think I already know the answer to this first one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. It might sound like a silly question, but you've talked about some of the alternatives for. They talked about some of the alternatives like lowering the track and things like that. Have they looked at track diversion? That's the crazy question, probably. And the other question is this necessary to complete the whole project?
Thanks, Nigel. I'll bring Louise in, and then if Network Rail want to come in, and I think we've got Jamie as well from Highways as well to answer one or two questions about any roadworks or anything like that. So, Louise?
Thank you, Chair. Through you, so the bridge will be built offline. It will be built adjacent to the existing listed structure. I just wanted to confirm that. And in terms of the quality of design, the replacement of that will very much be dealt with and considered as part, going back to the SIMP, the conservation management plan, to secure the best design quality that we can do. There may be some restrictions about, say, the height of the parapet, and that's a safety issue for Network Rail in terms of not being able to electrocute yourself. So there are restrictions there, but as officers, we would certainly want to see a high quality replacement design coming in as part of that process. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Alex or Tony, do you want to come back in on Any questions that were raised?
Just trying to recall which questions we can answer at this stage. I think in terms of build time, there's lots of different build times on different structures, so we'll come back to you on that specifically. In terms of alternatives, looking at Councillor Patrick was referring to alternatives, I think, and diverting. This is the key route from Manchester to Leeds. We need to do all the elements to make, as Tony says, to deliver the benefits and deliver the outputs that the DFT have required of us. So that's the reason for the work at this location.
I think one of the other things was something that Martin brought up as well, and it's regarding the Greenway. As Martin did say, it is, especially with this lockdown, it really has been very, very heavily used these days, and a lot of people, I hope, will continue to use it once this coronavirus eventually disappears. I wondered what there is planned for the Greenway.
I mean, we have identified where, again, working with the public rights of way officer in Kirklees, and we will continue to do that, where we'll have requirements for temporary stopping up, and we'll minimise those temporary stopping up, but we will have to, for the safe delivery of the scheme, to exclude members of the public, because obviously when we're constructing, it's very important we have safe sites and we can exclude to undertake that work. In terms of any permanent stopping up, those will have replacement identified and put in once we've completed the works.
Thank you. Jamie, have you got any comments?
Hi, Chair. I think probably Louise covered about as well as I could from terms of Kirklees highways. We've given some general comments on what we've been supplied so far in terms of drawings, and at each stage we've asked for a construction management plan, but we'd have to judge each section on its merits, and the amount of information we've got now, as Councillor Bolts rightly said, would want as little disruption as possible to the greenways, the same as we would the public highways. It is important. We'd have to see the details that come from Network Rail when they come through, and see if they have done as they say and limited that disruption to the absolute bare minimum.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Chair.
I have a funny feeling we're going to get same questions right until we get to Dewsbury. Martin.
Yeah, I'm just seeking clarity from Network Rail. We know about work, health and safety and work and stuff like that, but we know that there are bridges that they're building, as they say, offline, keeping a road open, and the only disruption will be when you knock through onto your new bridge. So, as I say, treating this with the same seriousness, what's the disruption time? They must have got this worked out, Steve. They know the plans now. So, how much are the greenways, roads, and like you said, we're going to get the question when we get to Combe Bridge. So, how long are these going to be closed to people? Let's have some clarity, please.
Network Rail, do you want to come in?
Yeah. Dave, do you want to? I think in terms of closures, I think what would be useful for ourselves is to come back with you on each structure, because each structure is different and the timings will be different. It's a very complex program. So happy to take that way and respond. I think that's the best. So we give you the correct answer rather than trying to address it here and now, if that's okay, Chair.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, I suppose, is how long's a piece of string, but I can see where Martin's coming from. It might have some rough idea. Ballpark figure.
Sorry, Chair. It's David Vernon here. Just to add to Alex's point, I mean, this is a hugely complex logistical project that we need to deliver in a very constrained area. We appreciate and we know the constraints on the road networks and what we need to do. A lot of the works, a lot of the planning that we have to do come off the back of disruptive rail access, where we need to shut the railway down and do various bits of work. That at the moment is all built off a programme on a date that we do not know we will get yet. So we submit this Transport and Works Act order, and everything is sort of best guess at the minute as to when we get that decision. So we aren't yet able to firm up exactly when items will happen, exactly how long they will take, because they are all independent. We have some timescales that we are working toward, and as Alex says, we will come back to you on each structure and be able to highlight those, but they will be indicative. We won't be able to say for definite exactly how long that will take, because they are reliant on so many other pieces of work across this area. It is our most constrained, complex location for delivering any of these works at this moment in time. And just going back to, I think it was Councillor Patrick's question as to whether we need this for the whole scheme, or to deliver the benefits, to deliver the job. Absolutely. Every piece of work that we put within this Transport and Works Act order, within the listed building applications, is required in order to deliver the benefits of the Transpennine route upgrade. So it is one piece of the jigsaw, but it's one very big and very important piece.
Right, thank you. Councillor Patrick?
Yeah, he's nearly answered the question now, so I can just ask a little one there. So if you don't get this proposal, if you don't get this proposal as it's proposed, does the whole scheme fail? The whole lot, everything we're looking at, does the whole lot fail if you don't get this?
Yes, yes. So everything we have put in the TWA within the listed building applications is required to deliver those benefits. If we have a gap in the middle, it doesn't work.
Right, thanks for that. Louise?
Thank you, Chair. It's just to make the point, really, that all comments that we receive from this meeting today will be reported to the Inspectorate as part of our final set of comments. So we'll take all the comments into consideration and pass them on to the Inspectorate. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Julia?
So thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just want to sort of, I suppose, repeat what Louise has just said then, in terms of sort of the concerns which sort of particularly about the Greenway and the stopping up orders. Like I say, these matters, they will be fed back as part of like the wider TWA response that is provided. So I just want to make that clear that we will report that back, and like I said, that will go to the Inspectorate. Thank you, Chair.
Right, Julia, thanks for that. Right, Louise, do you want to move on to the next, which is page 55?
Thank you, Chair. So this site comprises a Grade 2 listed Combridge Road overbridge. It's a 4-span masonry arch bridge carrying the B6118 across the railway, which is an important local distributor road. The proposal is to demolish the existing bridge and construct a new offline bridge to the east of the existing structure. The necessity for this is that the existing bridge has insufficient clearance for overhead line equipment under the 2 central arch spans, and the new flash lanes would clash with the pier between spans 2 and 3. The new bridge would have a widened highway deck and footway to improve vehicle and pedestrian access, and its offline construction would allow for a shorter period of highway closure. It would comprise reinforced concrete abutment walls and an integral deck formed from steel beams and a concrete slab. Their parapets would be of painted steel and raised in height, so that they would become a 1.8 metre high solid metal enclosure. On completion, the central section of the listed structure would be demolished to accommodate the overhead line equipment. Parts of the original structure to the north and to the south of the track would be retained in a modified form, with the exception of the southeast wing wall, which would be buried below the new highway alignment. The eastern parapet walls were partially lowered to accommodate the new highway alignment, and the remaining arches would require infill in to add structural support. The detailed design is yet to be defined, and this would also come through the Conservation Implementation Management Plan via condition. So alternative options were considered by Network Rail again, but deemed unable to meet their necessary safety and operational requirements. The proposed demolition, same as Wheatley's, would result in a major adverse heritage impact resulting from the complete loss of its significance as a designated heritage asset. And therefore, again, we make the balance about whether proposals demonstrate the necessary substantial public benefits to outweigh this harm. The exploration of alternatives did conclude that the demolition and replacement is necessary to deliver the operational requirements. I don't think I'll repeat you know, the benefits of the TRU because we've just spoken about them. But in this location, there would be 4 tracks, and the increased speed and capacity would be partially achieved through this, and in this area, which is spanned by the Combridge Underbridge. So although the existing bridge was designed to span 4 arches, 4 tracks, the arches could not accommodate the new alignment or again the overhead line equipment. The new design proposals here would provide public benefits with respect to the improvement of the highway for vehicles and pedestrians. The new alignment would enable the road to be widened to the required standard width for a highway subject to the current use, with improvements to visibility for drivers as well as a widened and improved footway. The replacement structure would offer an improved highway layout for users that is compliant with current standards. The road is an important local route, and upgrading the highway through this section would constitute a significant public benefit. Again, the demolition of Combridge Overbridge is regrettable, but officers consider its loss may be considered to be outweighed by the substantial public benefits that would be facilitated by its removal. And again, as per the previous application, the major adverse impact may be partially tempered by managing delivery of a high level of design quality for its replacement. And again, that would come through the Conservation Implementation Management Plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Right, Martin.
Thanks, Steve. Starting to get in the nitty-gritty here. When on the last item, Network Rail were quite understandably saying they don't know when they're going to be able to start. Now, nobody's asking timescales of when you're going to put a shovel in the ground. What certainly I want to know is when you do put that shovel in the ground, how long you're going to be doing it for. Because on this one, this is a major HGV access route to the industrial properties to the south of the railway line in Mirfield. They can't get through the railway bridges in Middle of Mirfield, so they have to come over Combe Bridge, up Lyly Lane and down through Hopton. So taking Combe Bridge out of the picture, those HGVs in and out of Mirfield have got a long diversion which impacts on the businesses. And I'm surprised that councils for Dalton and Kirklees are not asking about the impact of HGV diversions on their residents, but that's their problem. There's also the impact that cars, somebody might live in Upper Hopton and usually go up Lyly Lane, Bog Green or Kirklees. With this out of the way, they're going to go through Mirfield, over Calder Bridge in Mirfield and up that way. So there's more cars going up and down Hopton Lane, and we need to know about the impact on that. We would do on any other planning application. So not when you're putting your spade in the ground, but how long is it going to take? Significantly, there are businesses on the south side of the railway line and that will be cut off for this. Those businesses have just had over a year of disruption. The Royal and Ancient pub for one. Yeah, just coming out of a lockdown, and in the next future period, that pub is going to see significantly its customer base cut off. The people coming across from Bradley and stuff. The landlord has already expressed concern about that, so I'm sure on his behalf, let's know how long if they've got to significantly change the structure, is this going to be another bridge where it can be built simultaneously? Keep the existing road open while you build your new one. Again, yeah, we'll see that in Ravensthorpe. They're going to put a new bridge in and the roads will be realigned and that. So for the benefit of the wider community, let's keep that road open and then just suffer a short disruption when you've got to connect the two roads. And we've got Kirklees officers and highways tuned in. There are, I think if we go back to the projection, there are another 2 bridges on the road network here, Steve. I think there's a canal bridge and a river bridge. Why on earth aren't Kirklees looking at the whole corridor? The Cooper Bridge, sorry, Moana, the Cooper Bridge bypass finishes at the roundabout by Mamas and Papas. They're improving this bridge. So what's going to be left is 2 bridges in middle. That's going to be a pinch point. So why aren't Kirklees looking at a strategic route enhancement at the same time? Saying if Network Rail are doing this, why aren't Kirklees improving the other 2 bridges to improve the flow? Officers have already stressed what a high significance highway route is, so they should be looking at that. So again, I'm not bothered when you start. I want to know how long you're doing it and what implications you've considered for the people of Mirfield from the diversions that you're putting in place. Thanks, Steve.
Right. I'll get Nigel in next, and then we'll get some answers, hopefully. Councillor Patrick, and then, sorry, Councillor Pinnock first, and then Nigel.
Oh, right.
So Andrew first.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I totally agree with what Councillor Bolter said in relation to traffic. This is a bridge that I have used on numerous occasions, and not compared with past years, but it is. One of the things to be said in favour of replacing it is that the highway will be widened, and that is a good thing because it's a bit substandard in terms of width. The road part of this. I do agree that we could do with knowing roughly how long it's going to take. Because I can see that the disruption, people need to know what the disruption is going to be. But I suspect that we can deal with that through the management plan that is going to come back to us when we've gone through all of this. Can I make one point that I perhaps should have made with the previous one, and that is that because both this and the other bridge are going to be demolished completely, that a proper architectural record, photographic record, needs to be made of both these bridges, so that even if you can't see what's there anymore, you've got a good photographic record of it. I think that's important, and I suspect it probably will be incorporated in the management plan anyway. But I'm just making sure that does happen. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Andrew. Councillor Patrick.
Yes, thank you, Chair. You'll be pleased to know that my points are similar to Councillor Pinnock's and Councillor Bolt's. I did, before Councillor Bolt started to speak, I was thinking that looking at the road here and knowing that there's an awful lot of HGV use on this, and the general employment area, which will only see more enhancement, I'm sure, as the years go by. It's good to know that the carriageway width will be increased and also the footpath will be increased. Now, I don't know by how much, but I would be looking for the maximum, the best, not just a little bit. And then after Councillor Bolt raised the issue about the strategic improvement of the rest of that road and the other bridges that are on there, which I think is a valid point. It's something that we should be thinking about as a council. If we can get some money somewhere else to do those as well, then it can all be linked in. Whether it happens at the same time, it won't, but maybe afterwards that they all work together instead of getting to this railway bridge and it's fantastically wide and everything, and then going a bit further and you're back to the substandard road again. So I think it's a valid point what Martin raises there, but as I say, I welcome this improvement to this carriageway, but I think it should be the best improvement we can have, not just an improvement. Thank you.
Thanks, Nigel. Julia, and then I'll get Jamie in and Network Rail.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So Julia Stedman, Development Management Group Leader. So I'll, in terms of the comments relating to this item, I'll start off by referring to those that we've which are relevant to the listed building consent, which is under or which we are discussing this afternoon. So the matter which Councillor Pinnock raised in terms of the sort of that photographic architectural record of the bridges. So members might have seen at condition 3. That's something. So condition 3 on page 68 of the agenda. Yeah, we are recommending a condition. A condition to be included about the historic structures recording. So that's something that's set out there. In terms of sort of the other matters which have been raised, I think I've noted down about sort of the disruption and impact on the surrounding network, sort of impact on businesses, the sort of the strategic improvements to the rest of the highway network. Coming back to the point of sort of impact on businesses and the disruption to the surrounding network, that's something that is outside of the remit of this listed building consent, which you're discussing this afternoon, but it's something that we could potentially feed back as part of the wider sort of the wider Transport Works Act order. So we can feed that back, but in terms of those wider strategic improvements, that's outside of the remit of what we're discussing today. And as Councillor Patrick alluded to, that's something sort of for the council to consider outside of the scope of this listed building consent this afternoon. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Julie. Jamie, have you got anything on highways issues around this area?
No, I think, well, I think Julie's sort of covered that we can't really, I agree again with Councillor Bolt and Patrick, Councillors Bolt and Patrick, that, you know, where we can make improvements holistically, we should. Craig's just let me know that both the bridges that have been mentioned, the other bridges that are also listed, so it's not just a case of saying, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. There'd obviously be cost implications I haven't to hand today. I don't disagree that we should get the best of everything we can. I think in terms of highways, this particular bridge that's going to be improved it's a welcome improvement. And I use that bridge. It's not the best for visibility coming over it. It's not the best for width. It is the narrowest of the bridges. So we're happy with what they've supplied. Again, we have made comment regarding the widths of both footways and highway. Explain that what we would like to see, again, as Councillor Patrick says, it's the best. It's a well used route by HGVs, and we'd expect the casual widths to reflect that. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Jamie. Network Rail, have you got any comments?
I think only to add that the bridge in question will be built offline to minimise the impact. So in our order plans, we'd be specifically engaged with Mamas and Papas because we have to acquire land from Mamas and Papas to build this bridge offline. So we've taken account of that. We've consulted on the bridge as well through our consultation phase. Again, in terms of construction timescales, as Dave rightly said, they're dependent on possessions and a very complex project. So rather than try and answer them here, we'll go away and look at each structure and come back to you, Chair, via your officers with indicative dates, highly indicative dates in relation to each structure when it might take place, depending on various factors and how long that might take.
I think I would just add as well, Alex, that's all right, just on the width issue, and just highlight that as a big positive that's come out of the engagement that we've had on TRU for the last 2 years. Obviously, as a remit, Network Rail deliver like for like as a point of principle on all projects anywhere. And that's exactly what we proposed initially here for Cornbridge Road, one of the same width with the same sort of footway issues that existed, but from consultation, from taking that feedback on board, obviously I'm business at ourselves and in conversation with your officers as well. Obviously, we have increased that width in order to make it compliant and make it better than it is today, so you can actually get 2 HGVs over at the same time in opposite directions, which we do see, and I think a consensus on the call on this call is that that's a great benefit to those businesses. There is a period of disruption where we will need to link the bridges in. But as Alex said, it is an offline build. That was one of the huge pieces of feedback we got here, is the importance of that bridge, of linking the two areas together, of the businesses either side. And that is one of the driving factors as to why we are building it offline, and we'll limit that disruption as far as we practically can.
Thank you. Martin?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Partially, I think the supplementary has been answered, but just for clarity, what we've been told is that the transport issues and that are predominantly nothing to do with this. So when we're asking for the construction conservation implementation management plan to come back, because without that, no works can start, who's addressing the transport issues? Leading on from that, the Network Rail have just said that they're building it to modern standard. Does that mean, and it probably Kirklees officers will have to answer, is it compliant with Local Transport Note 120? They will know what that means. And just for clarity, yes, we know that the two other bridges are listed in the area. But yeah, if after full council next week I'm the Highways Cabinet member again, I would be saying that you build the new bridges offline. You don't need to, we don't need to touch those if we don't want. We're talking about working parallel here. So yeah, don't be constrained by the listed structures. What we're talking about is new structures if necessary. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Martin. Mohan?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Once the Network Rail get the green light from the Secretary of State to go ahead with these projects, will the Network Rail start work on one bridge at a time, or more than one on it, then more than one? If they start more than one, like 2 or 3 bridges, they might impact the traffic on the road very heavily in Kirklees, yeah? So I'm not sure, I could not see in the report, they go ahead with one at a time or more than one at a time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mohan. Louise?
Thanks, Chair. I just want to sort of clarify the differences really between the list of building consents and the wider Transport and Works Act order. So the Transport and Works Act order and the list of building consents will be considered together by the inspector, but as part of the Transport and Works Act order, Network Rail are seeking planning permission for the other works along the line. And as part of that, I've suggested a number of planning conditions, which include like a construction management plan, and also like a condition about phasing for each phase and the stages of development along the line. So that type of thing would be considered as part of the wider Transport and Works Act order, whereas for the heritage applications before us today, it's the conservation implementation management plan, which will find the very technical detail about how they're going to do the works of these listed structures. So there is a slight difference. Some of those matters that have been raised today will be considered by the inspector as part of the wider Transport and Works Act order. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Right. Any more questions on this item, or can we move on? Move on. Page 71. Next.
Thanks, Chair. So moving on to Mirfield now. So this site is the Mirfield Viaduct, a railway viaduct spanning the River Calder, approximately 300 metres to the west of Mirfield Station. It is a masonry structure comprising 12 spans, with a brick and steel extension to the south added in the 1930s and not included in the listing. The structure carries 3 tracks, 2 on the listed northern side and 1 on the southern side, and the alignment of the historic 4th track is currently redundant. To enable the viaduct to support the electrified rail service, 3 portal structures are required to be fixed to the structure. The distances required between the portals necessitate placing portals on the viaduct itself, as the length of the viaduct is too great for the wires to span across the structure. The portals will be sited inboard of the parapet with no alteration to the masonry parapet required. On the non-listed side, they will be fixed to the exterior of the parapet. The proposed works also include increasing the number of tracks from 3 to 4 However, the new track would be closed on the 1930s extension side, and in itself that would not require listed building consent. The proposals will represent a modest change to the surviving historic fabric of the Grade 2 listed building. However, the overall significance of the viaduct would not be adversely impacted to any significant extent, and the proposals would enhance its design purpose and optimum viable use as a railway bridge. The cumulative impact of the fabric interventions would amount to a low level of less than substantial harm to the significance of the designated heritage asset. And again, we weigh that against the public benefits in the planning balance there. So we consider that the works are integral to achieving the overall benefits of the wider Transpennine route upgrade. The reduction in journey times along this part of the route will be partially facilitated by the works on Murfield Viaduct. The proposals constitute a sustainable approach to the future of Murfield Viaduct as a nationally significant and historic component of the wider Transpennine route. And the delivery of the electrification, which releases passive and active measures to deliver reduced energy demands and carbon reduction, would therefore be a substantial public benefit. And officers consider this would provide the necessary justification to support the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Councillor Pinnock.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I know we've got a bit of a conflict here between the Transport and Works Act order and listed building consents, but this isn't strictly speaking to do with the listed building thing in this case, but just a straightforward question: would the fixing of the overhead equipment to the bridge require the roads under it? And there are two roads in this case. One in the case of the next one. Would it require those roads to be closed for any length of time, please?
Through you, Chair, is that okay to go to Network Rail on that question?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. There might be some temporary closures. Again, it would be planned to be undertaken potentially at night, and that's when we do a lot of this type of work. So we might have just lane closures. Again, we need to work out the detail of the construction and traffic management. But again, this would be controlled, as Louise has mentioned, through a planning condition and traffic management plans and a code of construction practice, which is standard type documents we utilise for Transport Works Act order, and have successfully used those vehicles with councils like Manchester City Council and Salford City Council most recently on the Inner Ring Leaf Road through Manchester.
Yeah, thank you.
Martin?
Yeah, thanks. Very concerned by what I've just heard, Chair. Temporary closure, and Andrew partly alluded to it. It's a pity that the applicant hasn't put up pictures of the road infrastructure when they're talking about this. Kirklees officers will know that the roads underneath this bridge flood frequently. There's also old people's home, Hopton Care Cottages. So when you talk about temporary closures and even overnight, sadly, care homes need access 24 hours a day in case there's a problem with their residents and patients. So, saying, well, all this can be agreed later. If this was a standard planning application, we'd throw it out for lack of detail. That's time and money that Network Rail have had to put this, and they're not coming forward with the detail yet that we can actually hang something onto. I mean, I'd like to see a red line boundary for this to see if they actually own the land underneath the viaduct. Because if they do, then it's them that has to sort out the flooding, and it alleviates some of my problems in Murfield. Again, if it was a standard planning application, when they talk about the mention of adverse effect and change, we'd have been asking for visual representations, because one person's adverse impact on a heritage structure might be a severe adverse impact to somebody else who cares more about them. So it's light on detail, and I'm very concerned. But any temporary closure, because they're taking down an alternative bridge just before you get into Murfield, that they condemned it years ago. They could have phased the works so that they could have had access over the bridge off Wood End Road if we needed it for emergency vehicles or whatever. But I hope that Kirklees officers will not just note concerns on behalf of the Murfield community, but will thoroughly investigate that any closure is not to be considered. You have to leave emergency vehicle access through onto the Gleeson Homes site in Hopton Care Cottages. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Martin. I'm going to say, if anybody's got any questions of heritage, we have got a heritage officer with us, Craig. Right, those points being noted. Louise, Network Rail.
Yes, thanks, Chair.
Yeah.
Right. Next item then, Louise.
Thank you, Chair. I'll share my screen. So the next application is Wheatley's Underbridge. So this site comprises a Grade 2 listed Wheatley's Underbridge, a railway viaduct spanning the River Calder, approximately 1 kilometre to the east of Murfield Station. The viaduct comprises 5 arch spans. A brick and masonry extension to the south was added in the early mid-20th century, and the structure carries 2 tracks of the Trans-Pennine route. The proposal is to add 2 overhead line equipment portals to the structure to enable the viaduct to support the electrified rail service. Their construction would require local temporary removal of sections of the parapet to be reinstated on completion of the works. The portals will be located as close to the pier centre lines as possible. In addition, a handrail will be constructed on the north parapet to provide protection to rail workers undertaking maintenance works and passages in case of emergency. This would be in a similar style to the existing handrail atop the southern parapet. The proposals would represent a modest change to the character and appearance of the Grade 2 listed heritage asset. However, the overall significance of the viaduct would not be adversely impacted to any significant extent, and the proposals would enhance its design purpose and optimum viable use as a railway bridge. The cumulative impact of the fabric interventions would amount to a low level of less than substantial harm to the significance of the asset. It's therefore necessary to evaluate whether the proposal can demonstrate the public benefits to outweigh the harm. It's considered that the proposals constitute a sustainable approach to the future of Wheatley's Underbridge as a nationally significant component of the wider route. The delivery of electrification, as stated in the other applications, which releases passive and active measures to deliver reduced energy demands, would be a substantial public benefit, and this would provide the necessary justification to support the proposal. The identified adverse heritage impacts are relatively modest and can be managed by the use of the Conservation Implementation Management Plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Members? Martin?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I was tempted to say ditto, but you've got to stress that again. We're stuck here between what the heritage is and what the impact is. The work that they're doing on it is affecting, there's a major chemical business next door, which is the European manufacturing base of a multinational company. There's access to many houses along Stennard Lane, Granny Lane, the shipping, which has only just opened up. And we just don't know. The work that they're doing could potentially, there's works that they've planned on Stennard Lane or compulsory purchase orders. We don't know the impact on the businesses from this. So whilst the heritage is one aspect, I think we should be looking holistically. And it's very disappointing that we're getting to this stage and we're all being told, that's nothing to do with us. I mean, that's been a running theme through this. It's not in the project remit. It's nothing to do with us. Well, it should be, because we're all here to see the public benefit and see this improved, but it's got to be done in the right way. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Martin. Councillor Patrick.
Yeah, this comment I'm just about to make does apply to some of those others we've seen, where it's very difficult to see the detail on these drawings we've got. I mean, I can't even read the writing's so small I can't read it. But where the overhead, the gantry for the overhead electric, where they're fitted to the bridge on the outside of the bridge, what does that look like? What does that? I mean, all it is in here is a bit of block with ink on it. I mean, what does that structure actually look like on the outside of the bridge? I mean, that is a heritage matter. I take it, but it'd be nice to see what that detail is.
Louise?
Through you, Chair. So the detail, the exact detail of what it's going to be like, will come through that discharge and condition process, that conservation and implementation management plan. That is our safeguard as local planning authority, to ensure that we have chance to be engaged in that process of getting the finer detail. So we do have these plans before us to have a look at today, but that condition is our absolute safeguard to ensure that we're able to look at that detail. That detail will come into us as local planning authority and be able to then be part of that discussion, and then go on to approve the detail where appropriate. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Nigel, do you want to come back?
Yeah, I just want to come back. As we progress along this agenda, we're being told we can contribute less and less. Because that's not relevant, this isn't relevant, that's not relevant. And then when I come to something which is to do with the impact on the heritage asset itself, because it's going to be straddled or fixed or glued to the outside of the structure, I can't see it because that's detail that's going to be allowed later. So I'm beginning to wonder why we're spending this afternoon going through all this, Chair. I really am. Are we wasting our time, or all these things that we're saying being taken on board, even the things that apparently aren't relevant? Bit frustrated with it at the moment, Chair.
Right. Julia.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, the purpose of this afternoon, like I say, it's to provide, yourselves to provide any further comments or any questions. So we've been trying to respond to those questions and queries that have been raised throughout the discussion. But like I say, the purpose is to be able to feedback any additional comments that you would like to be raised by with the inspectorate. So like I say, the comments that you're making, we really do appreciate that, and they will be fed back as part of the where relevant to listed building consents, which we are discussing this afternoon. Any other matters outside of that which fall within the TWAO, that will be fed back as part of that. So when you were discussing about the sort of the wider issues there and the concerns about sort of the impact on like the disruption to the highway and things like that, so all this will be fed back to the inspectorate. So like I say, I hope that members don't feel like you are not being listened to, because you are, and this will be fed back as part of our final consultee response on these listed building consents. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Julia. Councillor Pinnock.
Thanks, Chair. I just think I needed to point out that I have not received the pictures and drawings, so I'm having to rely on what I see on the screen. So I haven't even got something in front of me that I can perhaps see the scales a bit more clearly. As Councillor Patrick has pointed out, it's a bit difficult to see it on screen, but I haven't got the benefit of the. I would like to get a copy of that just for my own reference, please. Thank you. I'm
going to say, if it's any consolation, I've got rather a large magnifying glass at home, and even then I still couldn't read it.
Fair enough.
Julia.
Thank you, Chair. Like I say, I apologise if Councillor Pinnock, you've not received a hard copy of the plans. We can arrange for that to be sent to you.
Please.
But like I say, in terms of the comments that you are all providing, they are, like I said, it's really useful, and we will be feeding that back. So thank you.
Thanks, Julia. I've got to say, as far as people contributing today, I did actually think we might have had at least another couple of people contributing, ward councillors, but there we go. Are we okay to move on to the next item?
Councillor, if you want, if I can have my screen shared, then I can show Councillor Patrick what the OLE would actually look like when it's affixed to the viaduct. Basically, it's a steel goalpost.
Do you want me to share, Tony? I've got it up. Can you...
If you've got it up,
yeah.
Alex, that'd be fine. Yeah.
I think just on Tony's point, there is as part. So this is Wheatley Viaduct. You can see. So we've submitted, and Tony, as our expert, feel free to come in. But just to give some assurance, we've submitted heritage assessments for each listed building consent. We've submitted drawings, detailed drawings at the level of design we've got. This is in line with other processes we've undertaken. Again, going back recently with Manchester City Council, we have a level of design, and then as we progress, we work with the council through the construction implementation management plan on that detail. But is this the drawing you wanted up, Tony?
No, Alex, it was the cross section.
Cross section, but that does show the proposed OLE portal.
That shows it in terms of its.
And you can see it's
elevation. Yes.
Yeah, I can get a cross section up, but just so for the benefit of all the councillors, it's all on Network Rail's website. We can send links out, the heritage assessments, the application form, and is it the existing and proposed cross section you wanted, Tony?
That's the one.
Yeah, if I just open that up, there you go. So you can see. Yeah. Go on, Tony.
Yeah, so you can see there's the existing with the 3 tracks, and then it shows the 4 tracks being put down, and basically, as I say, it's a steel goalpost which spans the entire width of the viaduct. But there's only 2 of these. The peculiarity about Wheatley is the skews are not quite, because normally we would want to position the overheads in line with the pillars so that there's no sort of visual jarring in terms of its appearance. But because of the skew at Wheatley, that's not quite possible. So they're on a slight skew, but we.
Sorry, I think we lost Tony there.
Sorry, I pressed mute by mistake. But I hope that gives Councillor Patrick some idea of what it will actually look like.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. For
Martin.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. No problem.
Thanks, Steve.
Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Again, that comment there that if anybody wants to have a look, the information is on the website. Under normal circumstances, if we weren't restricted to meetings and stuff, you'd have been making a decision today and it wouldn't have been a consultation. And how the heck can you make a decision if committee members are being told, go look on the website? Yeah, as I say, if it was any other application, I'm sure members would have been speaking in strong terms about the poor presentation by the applicant, that they haven't had the information before them. The sections that you've just been shown, great, it shows it over the river. But the point I made was that railway bridge also goes over Stennard Lane. Is that not on your drawings, Network Rail? Can we see the impact? What are you doing over Stennard Lane and the impact that it will require on the road?
Possibly nothing.
Well, then we need to know, Andrew, don't we? If they're doing note, I'll be a lot happier. I don't exactly paddle up and down River Calder, so it's not a navigational route. But the Stennard Lane and Granny Lane is a navigational roadway.
Right, Julia.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm in terms of the, I suppose the consultation that's taken place as part of the listed building consents. So following receipt of the listed building consents, they were published on the Kirklees website, so it's not only been available on Network Rail's own website, but the details have been published on the Kirklees website as well. As part of that, site notices were erected at each of the locations, and ward members were also notified of the applications affecting their wards as well. So like I said, just wanted to flag up in terms of the publicity that's taken place as part of the listed building consent process side of things. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Julia.
Could I just come back on that, Steve?
Yeah.
In terms of site notices, Julia, yes, I've seen bits of paper stapled to posts, but unlike when we used to get Kirklees planning that were on a big background that said what it was, These are just reams and reams of paper. In Mirfield, it just doesn't say what the implication is on the Mirfield. It gives a full list. So when it's chucking it down and somebody's going out walking, or if somebody's driving past Stennard Lane, it's not good communication. They might have put the notices out, but have people been able to read them and understand them? And from I'm being told in Mirfield, they've not been easy to understand because they've covered every blooming thing from Stanage Tunnel right through to Dewsbury.
Right, I think one thing is as well, as an elected member, of the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had that many emails sent to us from all and sundry. It's been damned hard to keep up with them. I must have about 300 that I'm trying to wade through. So it has been hard trying to spot what's important, what's not important, although I did manage to see these. Louise?
Thanks, Chair. So all I was going to say is I've posted the site notices, the list of building consent site notices. They are bespoke site notices, but they're in the same format as we put up for other planning applications and list of building consents. Network Rail have also posted their own notices. I've seen these and driving out and around on the visits. They posted theirs probably the day before, I went out and posted the local planning authority ones. They are there. Some of them are attached to lampposts, and there is an awful lot of information because those cover not just the LBC applications, but also the wider transport and works act order issues. So there is a lot of information attached to those, but we have also put up our own notices. That's just to confirm. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Julia, and then we'll move on to the next item.
It's fine, Chair. Louise has just covered it in terms of the site notices, so thank you, Chair.
Right, Julia, thanks. Right, Louise, over to you again. Thanks,
Chair. So this one is occupation Underbridge. It's actually quite difficult to see from nearby roads. It's grade 2 listed. It's located a short distance off Thornhill Road, approximately 1 kilometre to the southwest of Dewsbury, a single span underbridge which accommodates a driveway providing access to a private property to the southeast of the railway. At the location of occupation Underbridge, it's necessary for the track to be realigned to the northwest of the existing bridge deck to deliver the required line speed increase. So here it's proposed to remove the access and infill the underbridge with a mixture of granular fill and foam concrete under the existing arch. A masonry clad retaining wall will be constructed on the southeastern side of the arch, slightly recessed from the face of it. On the northwestern side, a battered embankment of granular fill reinforced by geotextile will be constructed against the structure, obscuring the arch face and the wing walls. The existing historic masonry architectural features and wing walls on the southeastern side will be retained, together with the existing parapet fence, which is located atop the structure. The proposals will retain occupation under bridge, but will result in a significant erosion of its character and architectural interest, along with a total loss of design function. The infilling would result in the loss of its significance, negating its appreciation as an accommodation bridge. The structure will be largely encased by the new embankment, and the major adverse impact would fundamentally erode its significance, and thereby, in this case, amount to substantial harm. Therefore, it's necessary to evaluate whether the proposals demonstrate the necessary substantial public benefits that outweigh this harm. The exploration of alternatives by Network Rail has concluded that the infilling and encasement is necessary to deliver the operational requirements and to get the increased line speeds. And this would be achieved by the newly aligned tracks along this section of the line of occupation Underbridge, allowing for the express trains to bypass the slower passenger and freight services. While the loss of significance of this underbridge is again regrettable, its loss is considered to be outweighed by the substantial public benefits resulting from the increased speed and the capacity of the route, and that would be facilitated in this case by the infill and encasement of this bridge. The major adverse impact may also be partially tempered by managing the methodology of how it's done and the design quality of the infill and encasement to ensure that hidden fabric is retained in the best state possible. And this would be achieved through the Conservation Implementation Management Plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Councillor Pinnock.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just, before I say anything else, can I just check, please, how many tracks are intended to go over this bridge here? Is it 2 or 4?
Network Rail, correct me on this, but I understand it's 4 and then goes down to 2 just beyond.
Yes, it's 2 at that location. It's 2. It comes back into 2.
I thought so. Thank you. Well, I've actually visited this one. Went there this morning, and I don't like what's being proposed. What we're in effect doing is burying a bridge or partially burying it, and I do strongly object to this. I would like to know. Mind you, I have to say that it was actually very difficult to get at, this bridge. It's not so bad on the north side where you can see it from the adjacent car park, but the south side is almost impossible to get at, regrettably. But nevertheless, it clearly has conservation value, this bridge. It's a really nice structure. And as I say, the proposal is to bury it, in effect. I do not see why we can't extend the bridge itself, some sort of bridge outwards on the side where the track is moving to, so that the original bridge is retained as a bridge underneath that. Albeit that you have another structure over the top, where further out from the existing bridge. I hope I'm explaining myself reasonably clearly, but to completely bury it, I just don't think is acceptable. I mean, we will see in a minute the next bridge up the line, which has already been partially buried, even in its present state. But I don't think that the solution that's proposed is acceptable, not to me anyway. And I suppose we are talking about the cost of doing what I'm proposing, as opposed to the cost of doing what is proposed in the papers. But I am not happy about this, and I wish to strongly object to it. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Andrew. Right, thanks, Andrew. Network Rail, who wants to take that one?
Yeah. So yeah, Phil, again, between myself and Tony, note your points, Councillor Pinnock. We've done a whole assessment, so it's not our first choice. We try and retain structures, but we obviously have to take out what's called the whole life costs for the railway. The difficulty of building what's being suggested, we've looked at that. It does require significantly more disruption and work. So in coming up to why we've arrived at what we've arrived at, as well as the heritage assessment, the significance of the structure, we've taken all those factors and identified that for best use of public money, delivering the scheme, that the best option is to infill.
Can I just come back on that? Yeah. Because what this at the moment is an access to a house, are you suggesting that the house is going to get demolished as a result of the realignment of the track, and therefore the access won't be necessary? But that's only one point. The fact that it's a bridge and is listed as a bridge, I mean, I am very keen to try and keep it intact, regardless of whether it's an access to a house.
I can take that. So we're providing an alternative access as part of the wider Transport and Works Act order. We're seeking powers to provide an alternative access, and have been Dave, my colleague Vernon, has been working and consulting with the owner of the house at that location to to put the powers in to acquire an alternative access. In terms of the bridge and infilling, some of the bridge will still be visible. Obviously, some of it will be infilled. So that's right, isn't it, Tony? Some of the structure is still visible.
Yeah, the southern entrance, the southern aspect of it will still be interpreted, and you can see that there was a bridge there still. And the other thing,
sorry, I was going to say that's the one that's most difficult to get at, as far as I can see. So, whereas the northern side, you can actually see reasonably well. Anyway, sorry, I'll shut up.
But the other thing I was going to add, Councillor, was that the options and sort of some of the ones that you touched on are all fully discussed in the heritage statement that accompanies the listed building application, and shows out the reasons why we've chosen option C as the preferred option.
You're on mute, Andrew.
Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say I still don't like it, but other people want to contribute to this. I'm
going to say, yeah, we've got Heritage Officer Craig here. Do you want to come in on this one?
Afternoon, councillors. Yes, I mean, obviously, we've been involved in the design development process throughout. I should say that not myself personally, but officers within the conservation and design team have been involved throughout the development of the process. I think this, to be fair, is this was the only one of the 9 applications on which our assessment of the heritage impact was greater than Network Rail's. We had a difference of opinion about this. They felt it was less than substantial harm, and we did feel that the extent of the works here was substantial harm. So there's that greater test there of public benefit to outweigh that.
Thanks, Craig. Councillor Patrick.
I think it would have been nice to see the alternatives. If they considered alternative ways of doing it, it would have been nice to see what the alternatives were and how they impacted on the heritage structure as well. Because I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, one side of it's going to be blocked up, and that's the side you'll be able to see. And the other side's going to be infilled because they're extending the tracks across the top of it, if I'm reading these diagrams properly. And then it looks like there's a new embankment as well, a bit of regrading going on. If that access had been kept open with some kind of extension of a tunnel in new material, then I'm guessing that quite a lot of the existing structure on that side would still have been obliterated by the new build. But I'm only guessing because we're just given that and asked to say what we think. So we've got this far, and there's been a few differences of opinion, but not anything that would stop it. But I think you come to this one and you think, well, don't you think you ought to try a bit harder to protect this than you have? I mean, it's obviously the cheapest way of doing it, isn't it? Obviously, I mean, we can see that without looking at the figures. But it would have been nice to see what the alternatives were, so that we could satisfy ourselves whether there was a way of preserving some of the structure on the side that's infilled by doing it in a different way. But you're not really giving us anything to way up.
Alex?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to respond to that, Councillor Patrick, in the heritage assessment, which accompanies these listed building consents, we have identified the alternatives we looked at. So we can show you. I can show you that now, or provide the officers with a link to share with you.
Yeah, if you can show it, Alex.
Problem, Chair. Thank you. So here is the different options we considered. So we have been through a whole design process, and that's available on page 23 of the heritage assessment, and then it details as to why we've progressed with option C and the benefits option C delivers. So you can see option A, option B, and then option C is the one we.
Can you talk us through it?
In terms of the technical detail.
Yeah.
So option A is a long span with no access, track realignment, short span bridge, and then the infill. And basically option A and B, I mean, there is very technical details as why option A, B are very challenging, create lots of additional work and disruption to the railway, as well as they have ongoing maintenance costs. So again, back to that, managing public money, minimizing managing the benefits, etc., versus the heritage impact. We've come to the conclusion and decision that the infill is the most appropriate way forward at this location, and we did a lot of detail around that.
Right. Julia?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think members have made some really sort of interesting and good comments on this one, which I think, like I said, we will feed it back as part of our consultation response. Like I say, I think in terms of the balance which has been put forward in the officer report, it is in support of the listed building consent there, but I think, like I said, that some of the comments that you've made in terms of whether any part of the existing bridge could be sort of kept, I suppose, more visible. Like I say, I think that there's reference that the southern side will. You'd be able to see some element of that, but I think, as Councillor Pinnock was referring to, it's more sort of the northern side that you would want us to sort of flag up as part of our consultation response in this case. So no, thank you for that, members.
Thanks, Julia. Councillor Patrick.
Just to say, well, we're being asked to assess the impacts and give our views on or our opinions on the impact on the heritage asset. But actually, what if we didn't do that as the priority, and we actually said, well, what we're assessing is the impact on the public purse, then of course it's fine. You go for that option every time, wouldn't you, that they proposed, because that's what you're doing. But we're not being asked to do that. We're being asked to assess the impact on the heritage. And I know you're going to say, well, it's a balance, but it just feels like we're operating now with his arm up our backs. I don't know what anybody else thinks. There's some people on this committee not said a thing all the way through it, but I think I'm sensitive to the impact on the public purse. Of course I am. Everybody is, but we're being told throughout this that we are assessing the impact on the heritage. asset. And I'm just a bit disappointed, really, that we haven't been given the opportunity before the meeting to see some of this detail. In fact, this meeting's been rather sprung on us when you consider the ramifications of this whole project. It's a massive thing. It's of great importance, and it's just a bit disappointing that we weren't better prepared, can I say, because I don't think the reports go into enough detail at all. Thank you.
Thanks, Nigel. Councillor Pinnock.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, to some extent I agree with what Councillor Patrick has said, because we're doing this just after the election when everybody's been really busy. As Councillor Patrick has said, we've got a large number of cases here, which and it is the listed building consents that we are talking about here. That is the predominant issue. And from a listed building consent point of view, I do not like the proposal for this bridge. And I would perhaps I will take the opportunity of having a conversation with Craig McHugh by email after this meeting to try and get a bit more detail. But I don't think that this is the right solution unless it's something that is going to cost an enormous amount more to retain both sides of the bridge than doing what is proposed in the papers. I hear what's said about ongoing maintenance costs and all that, but again, as Councillor Patrick has said, we are dealing with the heritage issues here. Not overriding everything else, but that is the main consideration. So it's a bit of a conundrum in some respects, but I maintain my position. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Andrew. Matthias.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've been listening very attentively in the background, I have to say, and I think we've always got to remember what's the outcome here. What is the outcome? Yes, we have to have very special regard for our heritage assets where we want to preserve and enhance at all costs. But that public benefit test is a key component of delivering the outcome. And I don't think anybody in this virtual meeting has identified anything other than a positive outcome from the investment of the Network Rail plans through our borough. It has impacts. It has impacts to local businesses, to residents, and on some of our heritage assets. And it's been said in this discussion on this item, as well as others, you do have to weigh that in the round, and you do have to come to a view. Now, I hear what you're saying, and we will feed all of these comments back, whether they've related to heritage or other matters, to the inspectorate who lead the Transport and Works Order Act inquiry, and the Secretary of State will have those thoughts and views. But we do have to come to a position, and it is a position, it's not a decision, it's a position on the view of the applications in front of us. And you've got our advice, and you've got the advice of your heritage advisors here. You can have different views if you want. Of course you can. It's your opinion, but it isn't your decision. And I think that's the point that we need to reaffirm. And then just as a final point, Chair, just to help members, everything you've been raising here about detail, not knowing enough, wanting to be sure that we don't impact on our residents and our businesses more than we have to, those are going to be planning conditions that you as a committee can have to make a final decision on. Clearly, the principle may be established by another body, the Secretary of State, but you will get to look at the condition detail, and you can determine those conditions as you seem appropriate at that time. Hopefully you'll know enough by that stage. So what I'm saying is, this is a process, isn't it? This is the first public part of the process. The inquiry is the next, then the decision, and then the condition discharge stage to get us to the detail. And at all those times, it's like a layer. We'll get more information and more information, and then we'll have a picture for you to make a rounded decision on about the conditions that you get asked to discharge if the Secretary of State grants them the permission in the first place. Thank you, Chair. That was helpful.
Thanks.
I hope that helps. Thanks.
Thanks, Matthias. Councillor Patrick.
Yeah, just for clarification, Chair, at the start of this meeting, right at the beginning, I did say that from my perspective, I thought we talked about the conflict between listed buildings, heritage and public benefit. And I did say that I thought, on balance, the public benefit was the priority. But if we get to this point in the agenda and we are putting such a huge emphasis on the public purse and benefit to the public, we could go right back to the beginning of the agenda and look through all these again. And Network Rail, I'm sure, could have come up with structures that were far more damaging to the listed buildings, but far more publicly beneficial in terms of longevity, future savings on maintenance costs, and all these things that could have been taken into account. I'm sure they, if it was a blank piece of paper, they could have come up with loads and loads and loads of different things that would have been better from the point of view of a 21st century railway link. So I think it's just we're put in a difficult place, we're put in a difficult position, but we end up arguing about which is more important. And I just think that if it is a balance, it's not just a balance that we have to look at as committee members and as councillors and as representatives of our communities. I think it's a balance that the Network Rail have to look at as well. And they've done all right on a lot of these. I just think this one in particular, and Councillor Pinnock has raised it, I think they could have done a better job on this one than they have. And I think it's an important point to note. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nigel. Right. Next one, page 113, Louise again.
Thanks, Chair. So the next application comprises a Grade 2 list of towed holes at Dewsbury, Underbridge. It's located approximately 670 metres to the southwest of Dewsbury Station. The bridge carries two lines, one towards Dewsbury and the other towards Huddersfield. It no longer accommodates access under the railway as the northwestern approach to the bridge was infilled around 1970 to facilitate the widened A644 and the realignment of Watergate Road. The southeast elevation remains open, although the space underneath the structure is already partially infilled. The application seeks listed building consent to infill the structure to accommodate an increased line speed and allow for new load-ins. This is also due to the structure being in a poor condition. The works comprise removing the existing partial infill and a central portion of the existing deck, while preserving the original edge girders and parapets. The bridge would be infilled using granular fill and foam concrete, and a masonry blockwork wall will be constructed along the south-facing elevation, recessed within the arch. Sheet piling buried in the embankment would also be used to support the earthworks. The infilling is intended to retain architectural elements of the historic fabric which contribute to its significance. This includes the structure's parapets, cast iron edge girders and projecting pilasters. The new masonry retaining wall will be slightly recessed from the face of the existing structure to ensure that the bridge's architectural language would still be understood. The proposals would represent a significant change to the character and appearance of this Grade 2 listed heritage asset. Overall, the overall significance of the structure would not be fundamentally compromised, and the proposals would retain its basic design purpose and optimum viable use as a railway bridge. The cumulative impacts of the fabric interventions would amount to less than substantial harm to the significance of the asset, and it's necessary again to evaluate whether the public benefits outweigh these adverse impacts. I won't repeat the economic and social impacts here, but the works and those benefits will be partly facilitated by enhanced train speeds and capacity, which again is partly facilitated by the works on this underbridge. The proposals constitute a sustainable approach to the future of the underbridge and the delivery of electrification to deliver reduced energy demands, and we consider that this would be a substantial public benefit which would provide the necessary justification to support the works. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Councillor Pinnock.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I visited this one and the next one this morning. They are both really rather attractive bridges with a lot of very nice detailing, and that is brought out in the committee report that we've got. They're curious, really, and I mean, I'm not absolutely certain that I would have known that either of them were there unless I'd been there this morning. I've been along the road, the main road next to it, on loads and loads of occasions, but I'm not absolutely sure that I knew these two bridges were there, because they've been filled in on the northern side, and it's all grassed over. It's on the other side. It's in the yard of a waste merchant in this case, and as you could see from the first photograph that was shown, there's a lot of lorries there. But the bridge itself is really rather nice, and I just wonder whether it's possible to do something to enhance the appearance of both this one and the next one, because the next one's in a bit of a mess, frankly, on the northern side, so that they can be appreciated by people walking past, and that is it would just enhance the local area, it seems to me. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Andrew. Tony or Alex, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Chair. Useful comments. Thank you. We'll take them on board. Obviously, again, back to the key document being this conservation implementation management plan. Yeah. We'll obviously be undertake a record of it. We'll be respectful when we do the repairs and the infill, and that will be undertaken with engagement with Kirklees.
The only thing I'd add, Councillor, is just as I think Louise mentioned, where we take particular care to retain those attractive features such as the balustrades and the pilasters, which you do actually notice from the railway. So people who do go on the train can see, oh, I wonder what's that one. There's obviously been a bridge there in the past, and that will still be a reminder of its former function, because in the heritage statement it's actually got the original maps which show the original streetscape and where these bridges actually served in the, in the long and distant past when the railway was first built in the 1840s. But I think you will be able to recognise that there was a bridge there, and you still will be able to recognise that there will be a bridge there in the future. Admittedly, the only thing is you wouldn't be able to go through it.
No, you can't now. Yeah.
You can wriggle through one of them if you really want to. I wouldn't advise it.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any more, or shall we move on to the next one? Right, Louise.
Thanks, Chair. So this is the final presentation, and this is Ming Hill. It's Grade 2 listed Underbridge, located approximately 465 metres to the southwest of Dewsbury Station. Carries two lines, one towards Dewsbury and the other towards Huddersfield. It no longer accommodates access under the railway, as the northwestern approach to the bridge was infilled around 1970, leaving only the parapets exposed to facilitate the widened A644. The southeast elevation remains open, although the space underneath the structure is already partially infilled. So the application seeks listed building consent to infill the bridge, and the works again are required to realign the railway tracks in the horizontal and vertical direction to increase the line speed on the two tracks above this bridge. The works comprise removing the existing partial infill and a central portion of the existing deck, whilst preserving the original edge girders and parapets. The cleared bridge would then be infilled using granular fill and foam concrete. The access will be closed by a new masonry blockwork wall constructed along the south facing elevation, recessed within the arch. Sheet piling buried in the embankment would also be used to support earthworks on the northwest side. The infilling is intended to retain those architectural elements of the historic fabric which contribute to its significance. On this bridge, it includes the structure's parapets, cast iron edge girders and projecting pilasters. The new masonry retaining wall would be slightly recessed from the face of the existing structure, again to ensure that the identity of the structure would still be understood. The works would result in a moderate adverse impact on the Grade 2 listed bridge. However, despite being extensively altered, the surviving structure of the bridge would remain intact and potentially visible and reversible, and would not fundamentally alter the significance of the heritage asset. The impact would consequently result in less than substantial harm to the value and significance. And again, we weigh whether that can be outweighed by the public benefits. Again, I'll probably keep repeating the benefits, but in terms of getting the line speed, this will be partially facilitated by the works on this underbridge. Sustainable use of the bridge would therefore provide a significant heritage benefit to ensure its longevity of the structure and for its design purpose. Therefore, it's considered the proposals constitute a sustainable approach to the future of the bridge as a nationally significant component of the route. Delivery of electrification, again, would deliver those reduced energy demands and would be a substantial public benefit. And again, officers consider this would provide the necessary justification to support the works. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. Andrew?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Some of the same comments apply to this bridge. At the moment, there is a rather nasty piece of metal covering up a space on the northwest side of the bridge. You can sort of see it in the photograph that was put up just now, but it does look a mess, frankly. I couldn't get round the other side because it's in a yard, and I wasn't sure about access to it. Something I did notice this morning was that the boundary between the grass next to the main road and the railway line is not very secure. People could, by climbing the wall, could get on the railway line. It's not a very steep climb either. I don't know whether something's going to be done about that, but the railway line looks a bit vulnerable there, to be honest. I just thought I ought to point that out. Otherwise, the what's being done to help this bridge seems very good, like the previous one. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Andrew. Any more comments, members?
Will my comment about the trespass problem be noted?
Yeah, as that Network Rail and Louise, Julia picked up on that?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I've made a note. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. There's one thing, colleagues, anyway, I'm glad it's not us that's making a decision on all this today, because at £1.4 billion, if we turned it down, we'd never hear end of it. And if we accepted it, we'd never hear end of it due to all disruption. So all in all, it looks a hell of a lot of work to be done and a lot of traffic jams when they start doing bridges, but there we go. Right. Thanks everybody for taking part in that today, and
thank you.
Let's see if we're still talking about this in 5 years' time, because you never know. Right. Thank you, everybody.
Members, sorry, Chair. So just before we go, then, like I said, there are the nine reports. So members have been asked to note the content of those reports for information purposes. And like I said, the comments which you've provided today, we will submit that as part of our final sort of consultee response to the inspectorate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Juliet. That's it. See you all again next time.